everybody. Well, born with Holt-Oram syndrome, our next guest grew up with a visible disability and spent most of her life hiding it.
And it wasn't until the passing of her father, who shared the same rare genetic condition, that she decided it was time to speak up and be a voice for the next generation. In celebration of National Accessibility Week, she's here to share her story and spotlight what kids with disabilities really need and why it goes beyond ramps and checklists. Please welcome lawyer turned inclusive leader, expert, and disability advocate, Lindsey Mazza. I want to make sure I got that right. Good to have you here.
Thank you so much.
Well, Lindsay, what we find so fascinating about your story is that you say that you were hiding in plain sight during your life with your disability. What does that mean?
Yeah, so I never talked about my disability. I learned at a young age that it didn't serve me. I wasn't seen the way I needed to be seen by those that were in my life that I needed to lean on to help me. So I built this wall of protection around myself, and I thought if I just pretend it doesn't exist and I work harder and I figure things out, then people won't limit me.
Interesting. Now, you spent years disassociating, but I understand you've had some moments where that kind of snapped you back into it. Would you mind sharing one of those experiences with us?
Yeah, so, you know, Holt-Oram syndrome affects, you know, the limbs and heart. And like you said, my dad had it. But I truly didn't start talking about it until about a year ago. So my best friend for almost 2 decades didn't know what my disability was called. It was just everybody around me knew that it was a topic that I wasn't comfortable with. So it was really beautiful of them to respect that and treat me like everyone else. But there were many moments. One story in particular, a friend of mine who's a lawyer said to me, you know, they're looking for more judges. You should apply to be a judge, follow in your dad's footsteps. And I said, literally, I said, dude, like, I'm a white woman. Why would they appoint me? And she goes, you have a disability. And I remember feeling gut punched by that statement. Like, oh my God, the cat's out of the bag, which is a crazy, crazy statement. But that's truly how disassociated I was. I was rejecting myself for my entire life.
What a story.
Yeah.
Well, you know, as a parent, one of the first things we teach kids are the adults that you can trust and who are safe for you. But unfortunately, for part of your life growing up, that was not necessarily the case for you. Can you tell us that story?
Yeah, so I learned early on that I couldn't really trust adults that I was supposed to be able to trust. Teachers gave me most of the traumatic incidents in my life. And my first experience was at the age of 6. And every year my parents would make accommodation arrangements with my principal and teacher. And one of them was a buddy system for me, which would allow my friend to come with me to the washroom in case I needed help. And a few weeks into grade 1, I asked to go to the washroom, and my teacher said, you can go, but you have to go alone. And at 6 years old, I said to her, but miss, my mom and dad told me I was allowed to bring my friend. And I pleaded with her, and she still said no. And off I went on my own, and I problem solved. But I really learned that I had to be my own advocate from a very young age, and I learned to not trust adults.
Wow.
Did you tell anybody about that teacher and what they did to you?
Yeah, because, you know, I came out of the womb precocious, so my mom says she always knew
Good.
I was gonna be a lawyer, so I went home, told my parents, and my parents were really smart about making sure I was present when they advocated for me. So they, in unison, marched me to school the next day and made sure that it was dealt with.
Yeah, and I love that you're crediting your parents for giving you that strength to, like, when you're talking to adults, to feel empowered. So what advice would you give to parents who are teaching their child about self-advocacy?
I think number one is that you really need to let children trust their instincts. So because I had to be hyper vigilant and always look out for things that I needed, I learned to trust my instincts. And if it wasn't a safe space for me, my parents respected that. The other thing is there has to be an open and ongoing conversation with your children. They need to be part of the problem solving. They are the ones that know how they need to do things differently, and it needs to be solution-based, not pointing out why it's an issue, because then it's normalized. And the other thing is, don't let your kids be in the room with doctors and teachers who are talking about all the things they can't do. It is very damaging. It is not their role. Your child is an individual. How they do things will vary from every single person, just like people without disabilities. So I think it's really, really important not to categorize people and put them in boxes.
Yeah, all powerful
advice.
for all parents and kids, for sure. Okay, we want to fast forward a little bit because you have built a multi-city law firm. Congratulations, that's huge.
Right?
But as you've already told us, you know, the journey in the legal profession was not an easy one for you. For example, is it true that you were denied accommodations to write your law school entrance exam?
I was, and I chose law because I thought it would be a natural progression for me. It's supposed to be built on advocacy and equality, but I was denied. I had to appeal the process because my case wasn't compelling enough. And then when I went to law school, the accommodations were lacking. And then when I became a lawyer, the accessibility is just not present. It's bare minimum. The courthouses are not accessible. So for my entire career, I've had to problem solve and create my own solutions.
For you.
Wow. All right, so Lindsay, if you had a message beyond self-advocacy, what would it be?
The first, quickly, is that DEI is a major topic right now, and most companies and people are focused on the D of the acronym. Diversity does not mean inclusion, and people with disabilities are left out of that equation. Often, we are ticking boxes based on gender equality and racial issues, and accessibility is really, really lacking. And Canada is one of the most advanced countries, and it's still not accessible. And then my second would be stop rejecting yourself. Whether you have a visible difference or not, we are all hiding part of ourselves, which is why Hiding in Plain Sight was born, because the more I talked to people, the more I realized how relatable that topic is. And once you step into all of yourself, life changes.
Huge.
Wow, great message. Lindsay, thank you so much for stopping by and sharing your story with us. Everybody watching, everybody in the studio audience, you can find more information on Lindsay and her story at lindsaymazza.com. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Hey, you, come a bit closer. We've got so many more must-see interviews, spicy debates, lifestyle tips, and pop culture moments. So subscribe to our channel by tapping the logo below and don't miss out.